Oracle, Pat, there's a bunch of updates. Oracle has been really outstanding from an analyst standpoint of keeping us in the loop, being consistently in our faces, telling us what's going on, updating on the infrastructure side, updating on the application side. And in the past week, we've gotten some of both of them on the autonomous data warehouse, which I'm going to let you talk about, a bunch of updates on their application for supply chain, and a pretty cool partnership announced. Why don't you kick off the data warehousing with a little update? You wrote a great piece on Forbes there. We'll drop that in the show notes.
Yeah, so first off, Oracle is a big leader in database, in case you didn't know that. And what they're shifting to is as a service, like everybody. And Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse is exactly that. It's a data warehouse, it's cloud-based, and it requires a lot less TLC than, let's say, an on-prem Oracle database, or even something like a SQL server database. So what they did, though, is they took this to a next level here. And what they did is they, where in Autonomous Data Warehouse, they removed a lot of IT requirements for infrastructure requirements for that. What they did here is removing the need to have a bunch of essentially database administrators, data wranglers, data modelers in there. So what they did is they gave direct access. They built a layer of tools and capabilities on top that allowed business professionals to go in, citizen analysts, line of business developers to go directly in and use it with a SaaS interface. I mean, I almost didn't believe my eyes, and I did. I did. I'm like, okay, guys, is this real, or is this demo where they took me through even a machine learning models that they had that were already in there. So essentially, new data load capabilities, new data transform capabilities, new automatic access to even templated business models. So it automatically creates business models. I saw it in my own eyes. It was real data, but it is amazing. And Daniel, big picture here, compared to today, compared to something like a Redshift or a Snowflake, they can't offer that right now. So here we are, Oracle raising the game once again. And the other thing I'll add on is that this is one database that auto-magically is optimized for 8 or 9 different types of data. And that's a little bit different in the way that AWS has it, where they have, I think, 16 different databases that the enterprise, actually has to wrangle that data. So some big black and whites. I mean, I love the competitive nature of the database market. And it's funny, I'll say it here. While it may not be as sexy as microprocessors, it is SaaS. So, and this episode is chips and SaaS, and I believe this is a SaaS approach to databases that goes directly at the end user of that data. Now, it's not the Tableau of it, okay, but you can get visualization here. They were, quick to point out that you can get visualization of the data that, to me, kind of looked like Tableau-ish. But they're like, no, we interact with Tableau. So there wasn't a classic Oracle kind of when they're coming after you, because they're going to tell you they're coming after you. They're not. They want to be friends with Tableau. But anyways, pretty impressive, Daniel.
Yeah, there's a lot there. And of course, they're going to cooperate and competition everything. That's just what's going on. If you look back at that whole Intel segment, all about competition. Right now, Oracle, they have solid relationships in some ways with like a Microsoft through, shared zones and stuff that they're using. But at the same time, they're both competing for workloads. And of course, part of it is by delivering a solution that works for people. The autonomous capabilities, that you mentioned, and the ability to actually handle these different types of databases in a single environment is attractive. And you know what? That's the kind of innovation you should expect from a company that's been in the database space this long. Let's tap on a couple other things, though. Company had a number of other announcements. One of the big ones was part of as their CX portfolio, which is another big part of the business on the application side. Your EVP, Steve Miranda, did a number of announcements along with his team and some big ones in the supply chain space. And, supply chain management, by the way, is a pretty hot topic, Pat. We've talked quite a bit about it through what's going on with the chip shortage. But I mean, in every industry right now, and including that ship stuck in the Suez Canal. I mean, look, supply chains matter. And when they get broken, the world realizes just how much they matter. Now, Oracle is not going to solve getting that ship turned. Unfortunately, we could benefit from that. But what it is trying to do is build tools that are more comprehensive. And the announcements they came up with really focused on three things. They focused on orchestration, delivery, and innovation. It's iterative, Pat. The things that they're doing with their SCM tool is all about adding iterative capabilities to embrace things like IoT, AI and ML, process lifecycle management. So they came up with things like new production scheduling tools, new order management capabilities. So their whole kind of order to cash process has been updated to be smoother in orchestration. And they put a bit of focus on IoT asset monitoring and IoT production monitoring. So you think about all this Industry 4.0 stuff you hear about. Well, all those devices at the edge that are part of that supply chain, part of that manufacturing, we keep hearing about these manufacturing, these industrial companies. Well, that stuff has to end up in software somewhere to be able to be looked at, utilized, and enriched. So Oracle is doing that. The other thing that it really focused on was, the whole logistics and the delivery part. They had a new transportation management suite. They're adding a lot of machine learning. So in their transportation management, they put machine learning capabilities for better prediction in transportation, reducing costs. I mean, look, getting goods from point A to point B is expensive. I'm the son of a trucker. My dad owned a trucking company. Very important part of our supply chain. And it may seem like an old school business, but you know what? All those goods, all that stuff you order from Amazon needs to get from one place to another. And it's not being delivered by drones just yet. And by the way, when it is all drones, you're going to use some AI, ML, IoT, and other tracking to make that work too. So this stuff all makes sense. It'll evolve as technology evolves. The last thing was a focus on product lifecycle management. So Oracle's been really focused on keeping updates coming, not getting kind of in that rut of being a licensed software that you get updates once a year, but really doing it on a continuous basis. And on the product lifecycle management standpoint, they're adding a number of new features just to improve analytics, improve the reporting, revisions, cataloging, and security, by the way, has been something that's been focused on, Pat. And, we probably don't talk about security enough here, but everything that we're talking about, chip level, infrastructure level, application level, companies need to be talking more about security. That's something that I expect from leading companies. And so it's always good to hear about. Just want to touch on one other really kind of small announcement around Oracle. They did have a kind of a fun announcement that actually takes everything we've talked about into effect in some way. And that was a partnership with Red Bull Honda Racing. So Red Bull Honda Racing, which, F1, Pat, down in Austin, something that I'm looking forward to attending. This is you think about like jet planes. Well, F1 vehicles have a ton of data they put off. And essentially this racing team decided to partner with Oracle, its cloud infrastructure, its data systems to be able to manage, enrich, and perfect the racing team to improve everything from lap times to, the vehicle designs and builds to be as competitive as possible within spec. Pretty cool partnership. And by the way, Red Bull is one of the coolest content companies on the planet. I watched a video the other day of a guy on a parachute landing through a ski town, skiing on the roofs of buildings, Pat. It was like, my mind was blown. This guy lands on the ground. He's skiing backwards. He pulls his parachute in, okay? Pulls a Red Bull out of his jacket, cracks it open, chugs the Red Bull, tosses it into, and they're doing all this cool production. And then he throws his parachute back up and takes off into the sky again. I mean, this stuff is fun. Anyways, side note on the Red Bull thing. But very, very cool announcement. They're also incorporating all of the CX stack from the F1 standpoint to connect closer to their fans, which is the people that are watching those videos that I mentioned. So they're really putting the whole Oracle stack into play, Pat. A lot of stuff.
You think we'll get an invite to F1 here in Austin? What do you think?
Why do you think I'm talking about it, man? Oracle, are you listening? I want to go see the cars race. I want to hear those combustion engines exploding. When do you think it'll be F1 electric?
I don't. There is actually an F1 electric series out there that all the big players are in. It just doesn't get as much play. NVIDIA is big time behind that. Companies like On Semiconductor, even BMW has a car. So, but by the way, I think every one of the cars is the same. So it's not one of these big engineering face-offs either. But Daniel, just a final word on this. I just want to point out the huge difference. When you have an Oracle Fusion app, literally they're updated. There's a quarterly update. Not all of them update, but most of them do. And I compare that to an SAP ERP or SCM, and you're looking at customers might update once every 3 to 5 years. I'm just fascinated with how quickly the company has moved. Now, how did they do it? They did it through acquisition. But that acquisition of NetSuite gave them some time to rebuild their on-prem ERP and SCM from the ground up to have a cloud. I'm wondering what happens when, Oracle has, they actually have 2 cloud opportunities of the same application, and I wonder at some point, do they merge? But
that'll be about NetSuite and Fusion, which have both growing and kind of in mirror, and both a little different. I've actually set up and run NetSuite on a company I ran years ago, before Oracle acquired them. But yeah, it's a growing business. And by the way, those are 2 of the fastest growing areas. Mid double-digit growth in both areas. Different products, but yeah, I mean, at some point, doesn't it all have to sort of just become one big suite? I don't know. That's going to
and maybe the UI is different. I don't know for smaller business. I got to tell you, my back office, I picked Google 10 years ago and not Microsoft because Google was just so much more interesting. Now that was more IaaS as opposed to business management, but to me, simplification is key for me for my small business, and maybe that's why NetSuite hangs in there.